Breaking tonight, new details in the second assassination attempt on former President Trump. The new body cam video of the moments officers arrest the alleged gunman. What we know about the suspect, including phone data indicating he waited outside of Trump's West Palm Beach golf course for 12 hours before the incident, the charges he now faces, and new questions about the Secret Service, how the agency is handling the heightened threats against the former president. We'll speak with a former Secret Service agent as this marks the second attempt on Trump's life in just as many months. Also tonight, the out-of-control pipeline explosion, flames shooting into the air, triggering evacuation orders in a Houston suburb. Concerns over air quality as the eruption fills the skies with thick, dark smoke. And we hear from college students forced to shelter in place. Life-threatening floods slamming the Carolinas, torrential rains lashing the region, inundating homes and leaving people stranded. Historic rainfall leading to a state of emergency. Meteorologist Bill Karen standing by with where this dangerous system is headed next. Do you know this victim? The Gilgo Beach Task Force releasing new images of an unidentified person more than a decade after their remains were discovered on Long Island. Could the murderer be connected to a string of killings authorities have charged one man with? The new details just released. Searching for answers after the Titan submersible implosion. The hearing into what went wrong, revealing the final message from those on board. And these chilling, never-before-seen photos of the vessel you see here after the deadly crash. Political beatdown, a live debate in Brazil, taking a strange turn. One candidate smashing a chair over his rival's head. What happened next? And inside tornado tourism. Imagine spending your vacation chasing dangerous storms. Right now, people from around the world are shelling out thousands of dollars to get an up-close look at twisters in action. But just how safe is it, and is the experience really worth it? We tested out for ourselves. Plus, Venezuela accusing 3 U.S. citizens of plotting to kill Nicolás Maduro, the leader there, arresting them, how state officials are responding. Top story starts right now. And good evening. Tonight, we're getting new insight into the apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump at his Florida golf course. This marks the second attempt on the former president's life in just a span of 2 months, prompting new questions about his safety and the current political climate. And we're just learning that President Biden spoke with former President Trump by phone. First to that body cam video showing the exact moment the suspect, Ryan Ruth, was arrested. Police tracked him down on a nearby highway, all thanks to a witness who snapped a photo before he allegedly fled the scene. As we mentioned, this happened yesterday afternoon at the former president's golf course in West Palm Beach near his Mar-a-Lago estate. Trump had been moving between holes 5 and 6 at the time. Secret Service confirming one of their agents first spotted the barrel of a rifle poking through and immediately fired at the suspect. Officials just revealing that the 58-year-old suspect did not fire his weapon and that the former president was never in his line of sight. The acting director of the Secret Service defending their actions as the agency faces mounting pressure.
We need to look at what our protective methodology is. We need to get out of a reactive model and get to a readiness model. You can't just give me money and say, hey, we're going to make sure that everybody gets overtime. Because the men and women of the Secret Service right now, we are redlining them.
But the big question remains, how could a gunman come so close to a former president once again? In a moment, we'll speak with a former Secret Service agent about the urgent situation. But first, we turn to NBC's Garrett Hake with the latest on the investigation.
Keep walking!
Tonight, newly released body camera video showing the suspect in the apparent assassination attempt of former President Trump as he was arrested Sunday in Florida.
What's your name, boss? Ryan?
He was just driving with the flow of traffic. Yeah, I think that he may have thought he got away with it. It was probably the highest profile stop this sheriff's office has ever made.
All of it just 2 months after the assassination attempt against Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, with new questions tonight about how another armed suspect was able to get close to the Republican nominee. The suspect in Sunday's incident, Ryan Wesley Ruth, charged today in federal court with possession of a firearm by a prohibited person and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number, with more charges likely to follow.
Our FBI agents then attempted to interview him, and he invoked his right to an attorney.
According to court documents, Ruth's phone signal suggests he had been hiding in the bushes by the fence of Trump's golf course for nearly 12 hours, from 1:59 a.m. until 1:31 p.m. That's when, according to the documents, while Trump was golfing, a Secret Service agent spotted a rifle poking out of the tree line. The agent opened fire in the direction of the rifle, and the suspect fled. This photo showing what he left behind, including the semi-automatic rifle with scope, a GoPro camera, and backpack with ceramic tiles as potential body armor. A witness saw a man fleeing, giving information to authorities critical to his arrest. Tonight, the acting Secret Service director saying he's talked to Trump. Have you briefed former President Trump on your findings so far, and has his campaign asked for any changes in his security going forward after yesterday?
So I've had a conversation with the former president. The president is aware that he has highest levels of protection that the Secret Service is providing him.
And tonight, we're learning more about the suspect's background. His North Carolina home was searched by authorities overnight. Court records show a lengthy criminal history, including a conviction for possession of a machine gun.
He had some problems with feds and stuff. I would never thought he'd be trying to kill the president, but...
Ruth was an outspoken supporter of Ukraine who visited the country in 2022.
Thousands of people from every country around the world to come to Kyiv.
On social media, the suspect called Trump his, quote, choice in 2016, who had since become a disappointment. Ruth contributed to Democrats in 2019 and voted in a Democratic primary in 2020. He also criticized Trump, writing in April, quote, democracy is on the ballot and we cannot lose. Today, Trump arguing the suspect, quote, believed the rhetoric of Biden and Harris, and he acted on it. Comments echoing last week's debate.
I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy.
Trump has also used incendiary language against Democrats, and authorities have not yet revealed a motive in either incident. Vice President Harris condemned political violence, writing, quote, I am thankful that former President Trump is safe. And this today from President Biden.
In America, we resolve our differences peacefully at the ballot box, not at the end of a gun.
Garrett Haake joins us tonight from West Palm Beach, Florida. So, Garrett, first I want to start actually from that first assassination attempt. You cover the former president's campaign. Could you visibly notice a difference from that first assassination attempt to this one? Is there more Secret Service?
Yeah, Tom, you can definitely notice a difference at Donald Trump's events and around Mar-a-Lago, the places where they know he's going to be and where the public knows he's going to be. I think one of the questions is what are they going to do and what have they done about some of these smaller movements like golf, where it's not told to reporters, it's not publicly known that he's going to be there. So the Secret Service takes a smaller footprint. Are they going to have to change that process going forward? We don't have good visibility into it, and the Secret Service director did not really directly answer that question when I asked him about it earlier today.
And Garrett, I'll even point you to last week, right? That debate when he surprised everyone and he walks into the spin room.
That's right.
And we've covered a lot of presidential events. We've covered campaigns. Things have to be swept, and it was sort of a surprise to everyone. And I don't know if that goes against protocol, but it was a surprise to a lot of people there. You asked an important question, and I know you have sources within the campaign. Are they going to change the way they campaign? Because this is now 2 assassination attempts in 2 months. I mean, this is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, look, the Secret Service uses surprise as a tactic to help defend their protectees. If you don't know he or she is coming, you can't necessarily be there. That's not true at a place like the Trump golf course, where everybody in the world knows he wants to go whenever he's not actively working on the campaign. Tom, look, I think this is going to be a live conversation within the Trump campaign, as it was after the first assassination attempt. When you'll remember, Trump campaign sources told us, and we reported, that they were done with outdoor rallies. Trump himself didn't like that. He didn't like what it would say about him if he wasn't able to do these large outdoor rallies, and they have since resumed them. There is a constant tension, not just with Donald Trump, but with every protectee, about access, being public, and being safe, and I think we're going to continue to see that play out with the Trump campaign going forward.
All right, Garrett Haake with a lot of new reporting tonight for us. Garrett, we appreciate that. The Secret Service obviously under intense scrutiny now after those 2 attempts on former President Trump's life in just a few months. The acting director holding a press conference today revealing details of how they responded to yesterday's threat. All this as President Biden says more funding for the agency is necessary. Here's Kelly O'Donnell with more details.
A dire challenge for the Secret Service tonight, doing more amid real dangers and heightened threats.
Keep walking!
We cannot have failures. And in order to do that, we're going to have some hard conversations with Congress.
While the agent who spotted and fired on the suspect is getting praise, the agency is also facing questions, including why the Secret Service had not searched the bushes where the alleged assailant hid for nearly 12 hours. The acting director says that kind of advanced search is not part of an unscheduled stop.
This was an off-the-record movement. It wasn't a site that was on his scheduled, it wasn't part of his schedule. So there was no posting up of it because he wasn't supposed to have gone there.
Earlier today, President Biden said more funding is necessary.
The service needs more help, and I think the Congress should respond to their needs.
The scope of the agency's duty has grown larger with more protectees. Now more than 40 individuals, current and former officials, candidates, and families under protection. House Speaker Johnson says Mr. Trump's security must get more.
We are demanding in the House that he have every asset available, and we will make more available if necessary.
In July, President Biden ordered an increase of the security force around former President Trump and Vice President Harris. Today, the acting director said those changes are in effect.
The Secret Service moved to sustain increases in assets and the level of protection sought. And those things were in place yesterday.
All right, Kelly O'Donnell joins us tonight live from the White House. So, Kelly, while an agent first spotted the suspect and fired, it was also a civilian who helped authorities catch up to him with that photo they snapped right after he tried to escape.
That's right, and they are crediting that civilian for helping, and that person was also transported to the scene where the suspect was eventually stopped in that traffic offense and was able to do an on-the-spot witness identification. Now, of course, the authorities had recovered a phone, and perhaps that would have eventually led to the suspect, but the help of an individual paying attention, doing something and saying something certainly helped authorities detect him and to do so quickly. Tom?
Yeah, see something, say something. It always works. Kelly, we appreciate that. We thank you for all your reporting. For more on this, I want to bring in Evie Pamporas. She's a former Secret Service special agent, author of the book Becoming Bulletproof, Life Lessons from a Secret Service Agent, and an NBC News law enforcement contributor. Evie, thank you so much for joining Top Story tonight. So I'm going to play some video for our viewers here, right? And you're probably familiar with some of these images. It is the presidents playing golf. Every president that in my lifetime, going back forever, you know presidents play golf. And the reason why I'm playing all this video is because this is not new to the Secret Service, especially when you're protecting former President Trump, who loves playing golf. So I guess my question to you is, how was somebody able to camp out there for 12 hours and the Secret Service didn't find him?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that's one of the concerns is, so when we're looking at the golf course, it's being defined as an OTR. That's the big thing, off the record movement. Right. That means it's not on the record. However, the caveat here is he's going to a location that people know he consistently goes to. So can you really call it off the record? Off the record is, oops, here I am, I'm a surprise. Nobody knows I'm coming. So I think, and if you listen to that press conference that the acting director made, he said, we are reevaluating the way we work. And in fact, he said, we have a very reactive model and reactive methodologies. We need to be proactive. So he's acknowledging that the methodologies they're using are not working today. The other thing is, as far as assets, he's saying, look, he's got all the assets, and it's true. He's got counter assault, counter sniper, CSU, all those assets. But what was missing? Postanders.
What does that mean?
Postanders. Those are the agents that you see at that outer perimeter. Agents that are posted.
That was my question. Wouldn't they have swept that golf course? And by swept, I mean go through the golf course, go through every hole, look around. Is that not protocol?
Off the record, no. I don't think that in this situation it was a protocol. I think that they went in. I think that the golf course is secure to some degree because it's a private establishment. It's Trump's. They have a security in place. Look, we're looking at about 500 yards out. Typically, that goes to local law enforcement. Again, there's another theme. Trump rally, the issue was local law enforcement. Yeah. Here, local law enforcement. I think what's happening here is they have to look at the way they're doing their outer perimeter issues. When you go through training, the majority of training, and I've been through it, is the rope lines, who's in his immediate circle. Traditionally, the thought has been the threats coming from up close, get up front, shield them. Now we have something different. You have people with the ability to engage him from long distances, using a long weapon.
But I mean, also, to be fair, JFK was assassinated from a long distance. So, I mean, it's something the Secret Service is aware of.
Open vehicle, though, with JFK. And again, JFK pushed to be in that vehicle, and the Secret Service wavered and let him. So here's another thing, and this was brought up before when you were playing the package. Secret Service probably has to push a bit harder with their protectees and say, no, we're not doing this. This is the second attempt in 2 months. It's not good whatsoever.
What do you think happened? How do you think the agent scouted this guy with the rifle, with the barrel coming through the fence, and then fires on them? Talk to me about that protocol.
I think that's actually pretty remarkable that he was actually able to see a barrel. So at that point, you're walking through, you're doing this scan to do the assessment, right? You're looking everywhere around you. He notices the barrel. He notices the shooter. Now, he takes the shot. From what we know, the shooter actually never took any shots. He didn't unload any type of bullets. So the agent takes shot. For the agent to
And is that protocol, like, once you see the weapon and the shooter, to fire first?
It's the behavior. So what I'm presuming, if you're taking that shot, you're seeing that shooter proned out, pointing the gun at
No
something.
questions asked, you just fire.
You're firing because it's imminent danger at that person. It's not like he's got it holstered or he's got it to his side, muzzle is pointing down. So for him to shoot, it means the shooter was in a ready position to engage, and he did the right thing. I also wonder at what distance the agent was to the shooter. We didn't get that information because the agent did not get the shooter. So I'd be curious to see what that distance was as well.
Do you think there's going to be a copycat problem? Is this a copycat issue now?
It is a copycat.
Will there be other copycats? And how does the Secret Service prepare for that?
It is a copycat. This absolutely is a copycat. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I think once people see something like this, they get brazen and bold and they think, well, if that guy can do it, and now if that guy can do it, I can do it. I would be really on full alert at this point. We've got 50 days to go. And everything should be put in protection, protection, protection. Everybody needs to be stepping up to fix this issue, at least for now. Long-term, Secret Service has to look at manpower and resources. You've got 40 protectees. You've got all these threats. He even said it. The assistant director, the acting director said, we are dealing with hyper-dynamic threat environment. That means they're getting threats through the roof.
Yeah, I got to tell you, what also concerns me besides these assassination attempts is that you have two men. In Butler, you had this kid who was able to get up on the roof. He was a marksman. He would be a weekend warrior. He would, fire his gun a lot at the rifle range, and he was a pretty good shot. You have this guy who was, by many accounts, he had some issues, clearly. But both these men aren't trained assassins. From what we know, they don't have military training. They're not mercenaries. They're not from other countries that have been trained to be put here as snipers. What if there was the real deal? Because if there was the real deal, I don't know if President Trump would still be around.
You bring up a valid point, quite honestly. To say these are amateurs. They're lone guys who decided to pick up their gun. I'm going to go try to find an opening. They found it, both of them, independently. The one who was able to get access to a roof. This shooter, 12 hours. 12 hours. Nobody saw him. Nobody drove by. Nobody swept the area in advance. Hey, the president's coming. These are all valid questions. No, I agree with you. I don't think that these are any esteemed shooters or deep assassins that you need to worry about. And you beg the question, if these amateur
these guys could get to him,
people can do it, then what does that say about somebody who really knows what they're doing or a group of people that get together to do this?
All right, Evie, we thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your perspective, as always. We want to turn to some breaking news we're following tonight at Texas, where authorities near Houston are responding to a massive pipeline explosion. The giant plume of flames and heavy smoke damaging nearby homes. It's also forcing mass evacuations. A nearby college under shelter-in-place orders. Priscilla Thompson is at the scene in Deer Park tonight. We can see the flame just over her shoulder there. Priscilla, what have you learned tonight?
Yeah, well, Tom, that fire is still shooting flames up in the air, and you can feel how hot it is here on the ground as firefighters are preparing to possibly work through the night. An explosion of flames consumed the skies in Deer Park, Texas, after officials say a natural gas pipeline erupted. What do you remember about this morning?
The boom. I mean, it was a loud explosion. It was a big fiery ball that went up to above those trees.
Behind Rosemarie Allen's home, flames and billowing black smoke. At least one firefighter has been injured, officials say. No word on how many structures may be damaged or destroyed.
A lot of the house structures that are adjacent to that are still catching on fire.
It keeps getting bigger.
Homes, schools, and several businesses ordered to evacuate. This video showing just how close the flames were to shopping centers. Students at nearby San Jacinto College forced to shelter in place.
It was just scary because I was like, what if it explodes again?
The cause of the inferno remains under investigation, officials say. The owner of the pipeline, Energy Transfer, saying in a statement an unknown car may have hit a pipeline valve. Officials say they've turned the pipeline off, but tonight the community still on edge.
It will be hours, if not into tonight or tomorrow. It'll be a while before it goes out.
Okay, Priscilla, so we're taking we saw some pictures there, and we heard there from the city official it's going to take a while to put this out. What are people around there going to do in the meantime?
Yeah, Tom, you've got nearly 1,000 addresses, according to officials, that had to be evacuated. The energy company has set up a hotline for people in need of lodging and housing for tonight who have been displaced. And we also just got a release from them saying that it was a white SUV that they believe drove through a fence that was near a Walmart and hit that pipeline valve, causing this fire. They say that they are working to identify the person that may have been the cause behind this. Tom?
Yeah, some strange circumstances there. Okay, Priscilla Thompson on that breaking news for us. Priscilla, we thank you. We do want to turn now to the life-threatening flash flooding impacting North Carolina tonight. The state hammered by torrential rains and storm surge. Look at this video. Roads turned into rivers and homes and businesses inundated by 1 to 2 feet of rain in some areas. The storm now expected to continue further inland tonight. Let's get right to NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns. And we're saying the storm, right, Bill, because the storm has no name.
Yeah, the National Hurricane Center decided it didn't meet their criteria to call it the H-name storm. So, in the record books, this is just going to be noticed as your regular storm that you'd get outside of the hurricane season. But I'll tell you what, you talk to anyone in eastern North Carolina, especially south of the Wilmington area, and this is a storm they will never forget. So all the heavy rain is moving away from the Wilmington area between Raleigh, Charlotte, and Fayetteville. It's all the heavy stuff. But earlier today, historic rainfall amounts. These are personal weather stations. These aren't the official stations from the National Weather Service. But you look at these totals, and these were in less than 12 hours. In some cases, less than 6 hours, and that's why the water rose so quickly. So many vehicles got stuck, water got into homes, and even at this hour, we still have flash flood warnings from Fayetteville all the way to the coast here around Jacksonville and all the way south of Wilmington, where we had those heavy rainfall amounts. It's still dealing with flash flood warnings. So 8 million people are in flood watches. Additional rain, maybe 6 inches at most. We got to watch some of these thunderstorms late tonight from Richmond to Norfolk, and we also have a chance of isolated tornadoes too, Tom. So yeah, this is a storm that, the winds haven't been really strong enough to call this a tropical system, but it's been pretty wild.
Bill Cairns for us tonight. Bill, we thank you for that. Next tonight to the first day of the Titan submersible hearings. The Coast Guard's Marine Board of Investigation beginning 2 weeks of testimony as questions linger over what exactly went wrong when the deepwater vessel imploded last year on its way to the Titanic wreckage. It killed all 5 people on board, you'll remember. And today, new details were revealed, including an image of the submersible's debris and the crew's final messages. For more on the hearing, I'm joined now by Tom Costello, who has been following this story closely since the beginning. Tom, let's start with the image that everyone's been talking about, the image of the debris at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, what you're looking at there from the Coast Guard today is the tail cone of the Titan submersible. It is literally sitting embedded at the bottom of the ocean, about 2.5 miles down, 12,500 feet down, which is the depth, by the way, of course, of the Titanic. It is, as you know, made of a carbon fiber material. That was what the skin of the Titan was made of. And that is thought to have been the weak link for the submersible, the Achilles heel, if you will, because quite literally they believe that it just cracked apart or imploded all at once as it continued to dive from its original, from the surface of the ocean, I should say, trying to get down to the Titanic. But there were many engineers, and we heard this today, Tom, engineers and even the lead engineering director of the company, of Ocean Gate, that said this is not safe. The design's not safe. We don't believe that this carbon fiber is safe, and he himself refused to get inside and pilot the Titan.
And then, Tom, I know that we learned also that over the last 2 years, it had about 100 equipment issues that had to be looked into. Is that normal? Is that a lot? I mean, I got to think that this thing is pretty high tech, so it may have issues every year.
You know, Tom, I'm not sure how high tech it really is, to be honest. I mean, they were literally using like a Game Boy controller. I think that they were really, and the company finance director said today that they had no money to speak of. They did indeed deal with dozens upon dozens of failures in the years up to the disaster. And in fact, they believe that Titan may have been hit by lightning at one point in 2018. And then really most telling, in the terribly cold winter of 2023, it was sitting out unprotected in the Newfoundland, exposed to Newfoundland's Canadian cold. It was, imagine what that does to that fiber, carbon fiber skin. So, I'm not sure that this company was demonstrating that it had the money to even properly care for the submersible. And like I said, it was a pretty rudimentary type of submersible.
Interesting, because their clientele were so wealthy. You think
Exactly.
that money would go somewhere. Before I let you go, Tom, I know they also shared some of their last messages, or at least the last known messages.
Yeah, so among the last known messages, as they were going down, they got a text message, if you will, in which they said, "All good here." That was it. They would transmit in codes, very quick, simple codes. And the next code they received suggested that they were essentially dropping their weights. Well, the only reason you would drop your weights is because you needed to rise, right? You needed to surface, and that would suggest that they knew they were in trouble, and then very quickly after that, they imploded.
All right. Tom Costello for us. Tom, we thank you. Still ahead tonight, another Gilgo beach victim. Authorities releasing new images of a person whose body was found near the other victims of the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer. The similarities investigators are now focusing on. Plus, the mid-air plane collision over a Nevada airport, killing at least one person. The details still coming in from that scene. And political smackdown. Look at this. The mayoral candidate hitting his opponent with a chair during a debate. The heated topic that sparked this violence. Stay with us. We're back now with an update on the Gilgo Beach murders. Police releasing new, more detailed images of a victim whose remains were found on the Long Island beach in 2011. The task force that is investigating a string of murders in that area, putting out flyers in multiple languages as they try to identify this victim and their killer. NBC's Valerie Castro has the details.
Tonight, authorities releasing these new images of a Gilgo Beach murder victim whose case has gone unsolved more than a decade.
Today, we're asking for the public's help in identifying an individual who has been known as Asian Doe. This person had a name. This person had family. This person had friends. We're reaching out to anyone who might have known this individual to help us with that identification.
A past sketch of the victim, whose remains were found on the Long Island, New York beach in 2011, showed little detail. These renderings, updated after studying those remains, show what the biological male of likely Southern Chinese descent may have looked like. Authorities say the victim may have been a sex worker dressed in women's clothing. Tags from what they were wearing also released.
We have a picture of an individual with long hair. Because the victim was wearing exclusively women's clothing at the time of death, it is possible that they identified as a woman or were known by others as being a woman.
The remains were discovered along Ocean Parkway, the same area where 10 others were found. Authorities arrested New York architect Rex Heuermann last summer and have charged him in connection to 6 of those deaths. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to all charges and has not been named as a suspect in this case.
Were there any similarities in the way that this body was disposed of with those that were left nearby? And, I mean, are you considering Rex Heuermann a suspect in this case?
So if you look at, where it was situated, I think it was about 300 or so feet from Megan Waterman in that same stretch of Parkway. So it's between Megan Waterman and Jessica Taylor. It's all nice to speculate, but basically it doesn't matter until you can bring charges, and we're certainly not at that stage.
Police say this victim was between 18 and 23 years old and died of blunt force trauma at least 5 years before the remains were found. Authorities releasing the information in various Asian languages in hopes of reaching the victim's family. Though Heuermann hasn't been named a suspect, court documents detailing internet searches on his computer did include, quote, Asian escorts Manhattan. Whether this person died at the hands of a serial killer is a mystery still to be solved.
Would you have to know the identity of this person to bring charges against somebody? In other words, if you found out strong evidence of
of a suspect in this case was at the scene, and you still don't know who this person is. Could you charge somebody?
Yes.
And with that, Valerie Castro joins us now in studio. And Valerie, the Suffolk County DA, they're really trying to figure out who these victims are because they're putting out those different images. They now have this word of mouth campaign, and it's not necessarily typical in some of these situations.
Right. They haven't had any luck with DNA, and we typically think of DNA as the go-to method for identifying people. But police say DNA records from Asian people are less common in U.S. databases. And look, it's been more than 10 years since this person's remains were found. So police are really putting out this broad effort, this broad call to try and identify this person.
And then what can people do to help?
Police are asking people to enter their information into certain DNA databases. There are two in particular, Family Tree DNA and GEDmatch Pro, or GEDmatch Pro. That one is specific to law enforcement. And the key with putting your information into these databases is to opt into law enforcement matching. We think that police must have access to all of that information, and they actually don't. You have to opt in to help law enforcement so they can search that information and possibly make this identification.
Okay, Valerie Castro with that update. Valerie, thank you. When we come back, on high alert, schools in Springfield, Ohio closed once again over threats linked to unfounded claims made by former President Trump and his running mate about Haitian immigrants. The move just announced by Ohio's governor to try to keep students in the classroom. That's next. Okay, we're back now with Top Stories newsfeed, starting with the deadly mid-air plane collision in Nevada. Video just in from the scene showing investigators searching a field for debris. Authorities say the two small planes collided over Minden Tahoe Airport. One of the aircrafts carrying two people managed to land, but the other plane crashed near a highway, killing the only person on board. Officials now looking into what exactly went wrong. Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine announcing state police will now do daily sweeps of schools in Springfield. Two colleges in the city have moved to virtual learning, and two elementary schools were evacuated today after receiving separate threats. Governor DeWine saying authorities have been forced to investigate, get this, at least 33 bomb threats since former President Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance started making unfounded claims about Haitian immigrants. An arts and cultural festival that was scheduled for this weekend has also been canceled. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average closing at an all-time high today as investors await the Federal Reserve's policy meetings. The S&P 500 also ticking up close to its all-time record. Take a look. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite fell by 0.52%, I should say. The Federal Reserve is expected to meet this week to cut rates for the first time since 2020. That could lower borrowing costs for companies and improve earnings growth. And tomorrow's lunar eclipse will appear even bigger and brighter than usual. A supermoon eclipse will be visible across North America and 3 other continents around 10:44 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. The rare phenomenon is caused by a partial eclipse occurring at the same time as a supermoon when the moon is at its closest point to the Earth in its orbit. So take a look tomorrow night. Okay, now to a disturbing story out of Texas. An NBC News investigation finding a medical school has been using and selling unclean bodies without consent. That school now suspending its program just as the story was set to air. Our Liz Kreutz has the details and speaks to the affected family of a U.S. veteran. We want to warn you, the details in this piece, as you can imagine, are pretty graphic.
Victor Carl Honey was a U.S. military veteran who served in the Army for nearly a decade.
He was very friendly. He was outgoing, a nice dresser.
After being honorably discharged, he began struggling with mental illness and homelessness. Then in 2022, he died of an apparent heart attack while living alone on the streets of Dallas. Honey was entitled to a burial with military honors, but instead, something else happened.
I think they think, homeless black man, he ain't got no family. They don't care about him. You were wrong about this one.
An NBC News investigation has found that Honey was among more than 2,300 people who died in the Dallas-Fort Worth region and were given to a state medical school that used and made money off their body parts, at times as their own families searched for them. For Honey, within a month of his death, the Dallas Medical Examiner's Office deemed him unclaimed, reporting phones for family members they tried were disconnected. And yet, he did have relatives, some living right there in Dallas. His ex-wife, Kimberly, and their 2 adult children say they had even visited Honey in a hospital months prior to his death.
To hear that your ex-husband has been deemed an unclaimed person, what's your reaction to that?
That's crazy. We're here. We've always been here. His son has his same name. How could he be unclaimed?
This is where Victor Honey's body was then taken, the University of North Texas Health Science Center, where, according to government documents, his body was then frozen, cut into pieces, and sent out to different medical groups across the country, all without his prior consent or his family's knowledge. Those documents show Honey's severed right leg sent to a Swedish medical device maker for $341. His torso shipped to a medical education company in Pittsburgh, which paid $900. And for $210, a pair of bones from his skull went to the U.S. Army for military medical training.
His right leg was sold.
Yes, ma'am.
His temporal bone, his torso.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think he would have wanted this?
No, he never wanted to be. The 10 years we were married, he never wanted to be an organ donor. We talked about it.
And Honey is not alone. NBC News reviewed thousands of pages of government records and data which reveal repeated failures to reach family members before declaring a body unclaimed. Our team has identified 12 cases in which families learned months or years later that a loved one had been provided to the medical school. 5 of those families found out what happened from NBC News, including Honey's, a year and a half after his death.
I don't believe they tried to find us. I don't believe they did. You can find people. NBC found me in a day. You can find people.
Why do you think they did it?
For money. They did it to him, a decorated military veteran. They'll do it to anybody. And that's not okay.
For 5 years, the University of North Texas Health Science Center has had agreements with Dallas and Tarrant counties to take their unclaimed bodies for free, saving them a combined $1 million a year in cremation and burial costs. It also helped the school, making it about $2.5 million a year by leasing body parts to outside groups, according to financial records.
Somebody needs to answer, or somebody's, for what they did, what they're doing.
For 10 months, our team has been seeking answers from both counties and the Health Science Center. All 3 declined our repeated requests for interviews, but in statements, the counties told us they would be reviewing their contracts. The Health Science Center at first defended its program, arguing using unclaimed bodies is critical in the training of future doctors. But just days before this story was set to air, it made a stunning reversal, telling NBC News it was suspending the program and firing the top officials who led it. Writing in a statement, as a result of the information brought to light through your inquiries, it has become clear that failures existed. They're hiring a consulting firm to investigate the program's operations.
My kids want answers. They want justice for their dad.
Honey's family recently received ashes that the county told them were his.
We don't believe those are his ashes, but we gave him and did what he deserved as a decorated military veteran.
And so, this summer, nearly 2 years after he died, the family finally laid Honey to rest.
You would think in this day's time, this doesn't happen here in America. But yeah, it does. It did.
And with that, Liz Kreutz joins us now in studio. So, Liz, whose job ultimately is it to identify and maybe track down the relatives of those victims?
Yeah, well, Tom, it's complicated because actually, on one hand, the onus is on the counties. The medical examiner's office has a duty to try to track down the families before they deem them unclaimed. But in one of these contracts, at least, it also puts the onus on the medical center that they also had a requirement to try to track down any family members to get their consent. There's a 60-day period where nobody can do anything. You can't use anybody for the scientific research within a 60-day period. But we obviously saw that there are failures in trying to identify the family members, and people are falling through the cracks.
So what happens now? Because the medical center, as you said, is going to suspend this operation now, right?
Yeah.
And so they were taking these dead bodies from the cities and the counties. They were swallowing those costs, and obviously they were making money too.
Yep.
But what's going to happen now to the cities and counties that have these extra deceased people lying around?
Yeah, well, tomorrow there's going to be a meeting where the counties are going to decide if they should formally end their contracts with the medical center. It seems very likely they will, given that the program's now suspended. But we do know that the counties are scrambling to figure out what they're going to do because they've saved hundreds of thousands of dollars a year each being able to defer the costs of what would be cremation and burials to the medical center. Now they're going to have to take on that cost. They're going to have resources to figure out how to do that. And so they're scrambling to figure out what to do now.
All right, Liz Kreutz with an investigation. We appreciate that. Coming up, the Americans arrested in Venezuela. Venezuela accusing them of plotting to assassinate Nicolás Maduro, one of the Americans, a former Navy SEAL. How the State Department is responding to the allegations as tensions grow between the U.S. and Venezuela. We are back now with the Americas and the latest out of Venezuela. 6 people, including 3 Americans, arrested after officials accused them of plotting to kill President Nicolás Maduro. The situation unfolding less than 2 months after Venezuela's presidential election, the results of which have been highly contested by the international community. David Noriega picks up this one.
Tonight, tensions between the United States and Venezuela reaching new heights. Venezuelan officials say 3 Americans are among 6 people arrested for what they claim was a plot to assassinate President Nicolás Maduro.
Fueron detenidos recientemente 2 ciudadanos españoles.
The arrests were announced on state television by Venezuelan Minister of Interior and Justice Diosdado Cabello, who displayed rifles that he said were confiscated from some of the alleged plotters, adding that the men were part of a CIA-led scheme to overthrow the Venezuelan government.
Luego capturamos a un ciudadano estadounidense.
The 3 American citizens include a former Navy SEAL detained earlier this month, whom Cabello identified as Wilbert Joseph Castañeda Gomez. In a statement, the U.S. State Department confirmed the detention of a U.S. military member and saying it was aware of unconfirmed reports of 2 additional U.S. citizens, and adding, quote, "Any claims of U.S. involvement in a plot to overthrow Maduro are categorically false."
It's not the first time that U.S. officials or U.S. citizens have been implicated in such allegations. But these particular allegations come at an extremely fraught moment in U.S.-Venezuelan relations. In particular, we are now 2 months out from a presidential election, which is widely seen as not free and not fair.
Venezuela also arresting 2 Spanish citizens,
Está siendo enfrentado.
alleging that they admitted to being part of Spain's National Intelligence Center.
España va a decir que no, es lógico.
Spain's embassy in Venezuela did not reply to a request for comment on the arrests of its citizens. Spain and the U.S. have both recognized opposition leader Edmundo González as the winner of Venezuela's July election over Nicolás Maduro. These latest arrests coming just days after Maduro decorated 4 of the 16 people sanctioned by the U.S. in response to alleged voter fraud in those elections. U.S. sanctions against Venezuela also leading to the seizure of one of Maduro's planes earlier this month.
Nicolás Maduro has until January in order for a transition to the next president. So really what we're seeing here is a kind of dance between now and January to see, on the one hand, if the United States can exert enough pressure to lead to a transition come January, or on the other hand, for the Maduro government to reject any such efforts and to essentially claim that they will remain in power regardless.
Now another twist in the escalating feud between the U.S. and Venezuela.
All right, David Noriega joins us tonight from Los Angeles. David, you mentioned the U.S. putting pressure on the Maduro government. What kind of deal could be on the table if the U.S. were to try to find a middle ground with Maduro and his allies?
Right, Tom. Well, you have to remember that Maduro and multiple people who are close to him in his administration are under indictment in the United States for drug trafficking and other alleged offenses. There are also proceedings in the International Criminal Court against Maduro and many of his closest allies. So these people, most experts who look at Venezuela agree, are unlikely to leave power peacefully unless they are given some kind of off-ramp, some kind of deal that assures them, at least the people around Maduro, some degree of immunity or amnesty. That, as far as we know, so far does not exist. And for Maduro, between now and when the inauguration of the next president is supposed to happen in January, to leave peacefully, likely there will have to be some kind of high-level diplomatic agreement. Tom?
All right, David Noriega for us. David, we thank you. We want to turn now to Top Stories Global Watch. We start with the deadly floods sweeping through Central Europe. At least 15 people have died in flooding after torrential rains fell across Austria and Romania. Floodwaters also bursting riverbanks in the Czech Republic. Poland now under a state of natural disaster, and mass evacuations are underway. Officials say this is some of the worst flooding the region has seen in nearly 3 decades. Okay, China has released an American pastor from detention after nearly 20 years. The State Department announcing David Lin will return to the U.S. after previously receiving a life sentence on charges of contract fraud back in 2006. Lin was arrested as part of a crackdown on organized religion after he tried to open a Christian training center in Beijing. He is one of 3 Americans the State Department labeled wrongfully detained in China. And if you think the American debates are tense, take a look at this violent interaction in Brazil. This is crazy. New video shows news anchor and mayoral candidate José Luis Datena arguing with his opponent when he hits him in the head with a chair during the televised debate. The opponent, Pablo Marsal, had been referencing allegations Datena committed sexual misconduct at work at the time of the attack during the debate. Marsal was taken to a hospital and treated for a fractured rib and a dislocated finger. Hopefully he's going to be okay. All right, that does it for us tonight. We thank you for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.